So in this series of lectures, we are discussing about the different types of circulatory system. Different types of circulatory system. Already we have discussed open circulatory system, and today we are going to talk about closed circulatory system. In our previous lecture, when we talked about open circulatory system, we took the example of circulatory system present in insects, right? And in today's lecture, we will talk about the simplest closed circulatory system, the simplest form of closed circulatory system, and we will take a classical example of the ship. Ship or fish? Fish. I don't know why whenever I think of fish, my mind goes to ships. Anyway, so we'll talk about the circulatory system of fish, right? Now, let's suppose here we have a fish, and I will explain how blood is circulated within the circulatory system of this fish. But before I go into detail, just I will make a little difference between the open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. Open circulatory system and closed circulatory system, right? Now, in previous lecture I explained that open circulatory system is that kind of circulatory system in which circulatory fluid is circulating in part through vessel and partly through open body cavities. In previous lecture, when I discussed that open circulatory system can be classically explained in insects, right? And let me do a little review. This is your lovely insect. I don't know if it's that lovely or not as it looks in this diagram, right? And in previous lecture, I told that in open circulatory system in the insect, basically there was a dorsal tube, there was a vascular tube which was called dorsal vascular tube, and it has its posterior most area which was able to pump, and fluid enters from the body cavity through special type of openings which are called ostia. So through the again we are talking about open circulatory system. Previously we had a big detailed lecture on it. Now it is very brief review just to compare the open circulatory system with closed circulatory system about basic concept. Now, in open circulatory system, in insect, there is a dorsal vascular tube. The posterior most or back end of this tube is basically having ability to contract, squeeze the fluid. And when it will squeeze the fluid, right, this fluid will move forward to the head. And head end of this tube is open, right? And then what happens that from this tube opening on the head end, fluid will go out, circulating fluid, and it will be ejected in body cavity, and it will move through the body cavity, and through the body cavity as it is moving, it will pass over different cells of the tissues, provide them the oxygen and nutrients. No, not oxygen. Insects don't carry oxygen in their circulating fluids. We discussed. Mainly they will provide with the nutrients, and from the cells they will remove the, for example, these are the cells. So what will happen that nutrients will be provided and waste products will be removed, right? And after that, this will again enter through the special opening into what is this? Dorsal tube, the part which is the most posterior part which is able to pump. So we can say it's a sort of primitive heart. It will go into that, and then this fluid will be again recycling. Now, here this fluid which is cycling, right, or circulating, this is called hemolymph. In open circulatory system, in insects, it is called hemolymph. And we can see this hemolymph, which is a circulating fluid, while circulating for some time, it is in a tube. But it does not stay in tube forever. Eventually, it is ejected into open cavity, and through open cavity, this cavity is called hemocole. right? So from the dorsal tube, it is ejected into hemocole, this body cavity, and here it is no more in the tube, right? Because it is no more in tube and it is, you can say, splashing or moving or sloshing within the body cavity and providing service to the different tissues and their cells. That is why it's called open system. Why it is open system? Because part of the circulatory circuit is not enclosed by the tube, or part of the circulatory route is through the body cavity, not through the vessels, right? Now, today we will talk about closed circulatory system. Now, what is special thing about closed circulatory system? Closed circulatory system is developed in more evolutionary, more advanced organisms, right? The special thing about the closed circulatory system is that fluid which circulate, for example in us, that is called blood. Fluid which circulates, during its circulatory pathway, it always stay within the tubes. It always stay within the vessels and heart chambers. It always stays within a closed tubular system. For example, if blood, which is the circulating fluid, if it is always within the heart chambers or in the arteries or in the capillaries or in the veins and blood never goes out, right, we say that this kind of circulatory system is closed circulatory system. So up to now we just talked about that. In the previous lecture we discussed about open circulatory system, right? Classically we studied about the insect, and insect circulatory system. I told you in this diagram you can see it is like a fountain. When you look at a fountain, from here, fountain from its base is taking the fluid in, and then through the pump it is pushing the fluid headward, and at the top it is being ejected, then fluid is falling on the sides and eventually coming down, and again through special openings enter into the tube system, right? So we can say that open circulatory system, when you are going to talk, think of the insects, arthropods, right? And their circulatory system is just part of it is within the tube and part of it is in the open body cavity. Classically you can imagine this is like a fountain. It is like a fountain that in the insect, if this is the dorsal tube, right, in the insect, from the base, like a fountain, from the base through the ostia, through the opening, fluid is taken up by the tube, and in the base there is pumping action, it is pushing the fluid upward, and then at the top it will fall down all around like a fountain in the body cavity, and it will bathe all the tissues and cells. You can imagine that classical example of the open circulatory system, which I have explained here. You can imagine that every insect is having a fountain in them. You think of the mosquito, think of a little fountain inside that. You should think of a bigger insect, again think of a fountain. But there is an issue with it. This open circulatory system cannot maintain high pressure and cannot maintain high velocity. It cannot maintain high pressure, it cannot maintain high velocity. So it cannot, if let's suppose if insect is too big, practically it does not happen, but just imagine if there's an insect which is the size of the elephant and there is open circulatory system, do you think it will rapidly take all these system very rapidly in all distant part of the elephant? No. So what happens? When organisms become bigger and their metabolism become fast, open circulatory system is not enough, right? Because in bigger organisms with more higher metabolic rate, if organism is bigger, we need more nutrition and we need it more fast and we need it for more tissue, and some of the tissues are far away in the body if organism is very big like camel or elephant. In such situation, when organism become bigger, we say open circulatory system is not enough to provide the nutrients and to remove the metabolic waste efficiently. For that purpose, in evolutionary system, organism developed closed circulatory system. Now, what is closed circulatory system? Closed circulatory system is such kind of circulatory system in which circulating fluid is present within the tubes, and through the tubes it is circulating all around. Is that right? Now, let me give you a little example. That here is a closed circulatory system. This is a tube system, vessels, and here is the pump. This is the pump. And let's suppose this is your open circulatory system, right? And now, in closed circulatory system, fluid is moving within the system and it never comes out of the vessels. It is passing through the vessels, passing through the heart and vessels, and like that. In open circulatory system, it passes through the vascular system and then it comes out, and then in the body cavity in open system, and then again it is reuptaken. Is that right? Now, here what we could see in open, if these are the cells, which need nutrients, this fluid in the open system will directly come to the cell, come in contact with the cell, provide the nutrients, and remove metabolic waste. But in closed system, if let's suppose these are the cells which need to be provided with the nutrients, but the problem is that this fluid, for example blood, it is not coming out. So how the nutrients are provided from the blood to the cell, and how from the cell waste products are taken to the transport system? The answer is that in between these two, there is a special type of fluid. This is called tissue fluid. This fluid is not circulating, it is just present around the cells, right? And in closed circulatory system, what really happens that oxygen or nutrients are exchanged between the what is this, blood and interstitial fluid. For example, oxygen or nutrients will come to the interstitial fluid, and from the interstitial fluid they will be taken by the cells. Or metabolic waste are released by the cells into interstitial fluid, and from the interstitial fluid it is taken to the vascular system. So what can we say? We can say in closed circulatory system there are two important things. Number one, the circulatory fluid, hemolymph, partly it moves through the vascular system and partly it moves through the open body cavity. In closed system, the circulating fluid called blood is limited within the closed vascular system and heart chambers, right? In open system, it provides the nutrients and remove the metabolic waste, the circulating fluid, directly from the cells. In closed system, as circulating fluid is not leaving the vascular system, but what is really happening that from the vascular system, nutrients are first going to the interstitial fluid, then taken up by the cells, and metabolic waste are moving from the cells first to the interstitial fluid and then going to the vascular system. So we can say two main features. Remember, after this lecture on the fish circulatory system, we will have another full lecture about the difference between open and closed circulatory system. There are so many differences. We'll talk in the next lecture. But for now, it is sufficient to say that open circulatory system, again I will repeat, in complete circuit of open circulatory system, part of the circuit consists of vascular pathway, part of the circuit consists of open body cavities, right? In case of closed circulatory system, the whole circuit consists of closed system of heart chambers and vessels. This is one difference. Second difference, I said that in open circulatory system, fluid is moving slowly and it directly come in contact with the cells and provide them the nutrients and remove the waste products. So we say that here this fluid is doing the exchanging with the cells directly. In closed circulatory system, what the fluid is doing, that fluid which is circulating blood, it first exchanges with the interstitial fluid, and then interstitial fluid exchanges the substances with the cells. So we can say that blood or the circulating fluid in the closed circulatory system makes the exchanges with the cells via the interstitial fluid. Is that right? Now, as I mentioned, why organism had to move from open circulatory system to closed circulatory system? Open circulatory system is present in insects. Because open circulatory system is a low pressure system and fluid moves very slowly, right? So it cannot provide lot of energy and nutrients very efficiently, and it cannot remove the waste products very efficiently. Is that right? But in closed circulatory system, fluid is moving very rapidly and it is moving under relatively high pressure. So when fluid is moving rapidly and it is moving under high pressure, so it can go to more tissues, more distant tissue in bigger organisms, and as it is moving more rapidly, it can transport more substances with higher velocity. So closed circulatory system can support organisms with larger size and with more metabolic needs, right? Open circulatory system only support the organisms which have what? Number one, smaller size, and number two, yes, which have lower metabolic rate. Now, when we talk about the closed circulatory system, again, there is simple closed circulatory system. When we talk about closed circulatory system, there are many types of closed circulatory system, right? First, there is the simplest form of closed circulatory system which is present in the fish. Now, the simplest form of closed circulatory system is single circulatory system. Now, let me tell you, let's suppose hypothetically this is your heart, right? Let's suppose this is your, okay, this is an organism and this is the heart. Imagine if heart pump the fluid and fluid moves through the vessels and then comes back. Now, you can see this, that fluid is throughout within the vascular system. But completing one circuit, it is passing through the heart only once. During one circuit, it is passing through the heart only once. So we say this is a closed circulatory system, but because in one circulation, fluid is moving through the cardiac chamber only once, so we call it single closed circulatory system, right? Now, this is the kind of circulatory system which is present in fish. We'll go into detail, right, after some time. But let me differentiate single closed circulatory system from an other system. Let me make heart a little advanced. Let's suppose this heart has two chambers. One chamber which is receiving the blood, other chamber which is pushing the blood. This is a stronger chamber. We call them ventricles, right? And this is receiving the blood. This is weak chamber. We call it atrium or auricle. Now, in single circulatory system, what is happening? That there is atrium, and there is ventricle. There are only two chambers. How many chambers? Only two chambers, right? And we also call it two-chambered single loop circulatory system. What kind of system? Two-chambered single loop circulatory system, right? This is one way to explain it. Let me make it a little different. Actually, I'm going to make it more advanced. Same diagram, but okay, let me make it blue. let's suppose this is atrium and this is ventricle. This is ventricle and this is atrium. Now, blood is circulating from the ventricle, it is going out, it goes to those organs where it receives oxygen. Now here is oxygenated blood. Here is oxygenated blood. This oxygen is supplied to tissues in the body. And after giving, for example, here are the tissues, cells in the body which have received the oxygen, and then from there it has gone back to, what is this? Atrium, receiving chamber. Now in this case, it is closed system or open system? It is closed system. Very good. Is it single or double circulatory system? Single. It is single because blood will only pass once through the heart while in complete circle. Now, fish has this model of the circulatory system. Is that right? What is happening? This closed circulatory system, there are two main chambers for the heart, and there are, first this fluid is going towards a place, tissue, where it will get oxygenated. It will get the oxygen, lose the carbon dioxide, and oxygenated blood will go into another part of the vascular system which will take the blood to the other tissues. There it will give the oxygen out to the tissues and take the carbon dioxide and then come back. Is that right? Now, here there is an issue, a big problem. What is the problem? This system is, even though much better than open system, it has become advanced, but it has one problem. Let me tell you what is the problem. Problem here is that when this heart will pump, fluid will move towards the respiratory organ, the organ where it will, for example, if it is fish, then this organ must be gills. But this respiratory organ in human are the lungs. But let's suppose this is fish model. Here what is happening, that, listen carefully, what is happening when blood is moving towards the gills or first capillary network, which are very fine vessels, when blood is passing through here, its pressure drops. Its pressure drops. The pressure in the tubular system was generated by this ventricle, right? And when blood is moving through this towards the capillaries present in the gills, right? What will happen? Pressure will fall down. Why the pressure will fall down? Answer is very simple. Because when this fluid is moving forward, right? This one artery will divide into thousands of arteries. And thousands of the arteries divide in millions of capillaries. So it means for one pipe, I'm showing just here 3 pathways, but actually there are millions and millions of small divisions. When main pipe is bringing the water and the millions of small pipes going on, and the very big number, so speed of the flow will become more or less? It will become less. Velocity will go down. And pressure in the pipes will go up or down? It will go down. Again, I'm repeating. Just imagine here that let's suppose this is a pipe which is bringing the fluid, main pipe, right? Fluid is coming over here. Now it divides into many small pipes. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, let's suppose, and 5. Now you imagine the fluid which was coming into main pipe, even though it goes into smaller pipes, but not one small pipe, many small pipes, right? And then eventually it is passing through these areas. If you look at the total cross-section area of big pipe, this is this much. I will show here this much, right? This is the cross-sectional area of the main pipe. But if it divides into millions of small pipes, all that openings will be added together. These are the cross sections of smaller vessels. Now you can see that what happens when from one artery, bigger pipe, many smaller arteries are divided, and smaller arteries go into more small arteries, arteriole, then eventually millions of capillaries. The total surface area of capillaries is more than the initial artery which was supplying that. You are getting it?
Yes.
So what will happen? Just here, because there was narrow area, flow will be fast and pressure will be more. But as it will move forward in millions of smaller pipes, but total surface area of smaller pipes added together become too big.
Yes.
And if it becomes too big, pressure will fall, velocity will fall. That is very good, because when pressure and velocity will fall, when it is passing through the gas exchange areas, thanks God, pressure is less, because if pressure will be high, it will damage this organ where gases are exchanging. So this is very good. This is very good, pressure drop here. And blood also move slowly. That is also good. That gives time that this fluid which is moving, blood which is moving, it will release the carbon dioxide and take up the oxygen. So up to now we are very happy that it generated the pressure, and that pressure took the fluid towards the respiratory organs. In case of fish, it was gills, and once it reached to the gills, then pressure drop and velocity also become slow. As I said, from here it is moving like horses, and here it start catwalk, very slow. Now, have you seen catwalk? Walk of a real cat, not other catwalks. Anyway, now, so it becomes very slow. When it is moving slowly, it is good. What is good here? That due to low pressure, it will not damage the respiratory organ structure. This is one good thing. Second good reason, that it will move slowly, so it can easily take its time to exchange the gases, right? And after that, this blood become oxygenated. Now, oxygenated blood will be again collected, and it is moving through another set of vessels to the peripheral tissues, right? Now, this oxygenated blood which is moving forward, listen carefully, this oxygenated blood which is moving forward, do you think this will be under high pressure or very low pressure?
Very low.
Very low pressure, because pressure is already lost in the respiratory organ. In case of fish, it is gills. In the capillaries of the gills, pressure was dropped. Now this fluid is moving very, very slowly, sluggishly, and it will take nutrients to the many tissues, remove the waste products, take them to the excretory organs, and then again come back, and circulation will be done. Now, advantage of over the open system, this is good, but this is not perfect. It is good, but not perfect. The good thing about it is that fluid remains within the closed chamber, moves relatively as compared to the open system with more pressure and more velocity, and it can support bigger organism, and it can support relatively more metabolic rate. Is that right? But if it is single system, this is single system, you know, two chamber, single loop. Because now this single system has one serious problem also. You know what is that? That this part of the system, once it is oxygenated blood, when it is moving to the other tissues and taking oxygen for distribution, the pressure and velocity is very slow. This is an issue. If organism have to get more bigger, and organism have to be having very high metabolic rate, even this single system is not fine. There should be more, something more advanced into this. This should be made little more advanced. There should be some way to make it more efficient. One way to make it more efficient is that when blood gets oxygenated and it is going towards the tissues, it should be again pressurized. One way to make this system more efficient is that after oxygenated, somehow blood should be again squeezed and pressurized so that it moves more fast And if it moves more fast, it can support more bigger organism with more metabolic needs. Now, it means this should again come in touch with the heart, this part, because pressurizing device is heart. What is pressurizing device? That is heart. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So what happens? Another modification. In this loop, I will take the same loop and make a modification. Okay, I will make a second modification. Make a similar. Yes, I will make a smaller diagram. Atrium, what is this? Ventricle. And then this is going to the tissues where it gets gas exchanges, right? And then, now look very carefully. Some organism, they have become more advanced. This was the system of fish. This was the system of insect, open circulation. Then this was closed. Then closed with more detail. Then with more detail, closed single system of the fish. Is that right? Fish are moving in the water. They are strictly aquatic animals. How do you define fish? Anything which look like fish is fish? Or anything which has a mouth like this, it's fish? No. What is fish? Fish is those strict aquatic animals which do not have limbs. They have fins, they have scales, but they don't have limbs. And of course, they don't have digits, fingers. They don't have arms and legs and fingers. So we say fish are strictly aquatic animals, animals which strictly stay in water, happy in water, and they are armless and legless. They are limbless and no fingers, no digits, right? Is that right? Of course, they do have some scales and some fins to move, right? Yes. And their respiratory organs are gills. Their respiratory organs are gills, which can help the fish to take the water through their body and make gas exchanges while they are within the water, right? That is about the fish. Now, fish has one advantage. You know why? Because it moves in the water, water supports its movement. Because it lives in the water, so water supports its movement. So they don't need too much energy to move about because their body is supported by the water. That is why this slow system is okay with the fish. We can say why fish are happy with this single closed circulatory system. Answer is that this closed circulatory system is the simplest circulatory system, even though it is better than the open system, but it is not perfect because once the blood is pumped by the ventricle and it reaches to capillary system in gills, there of course it makes the oxygen gas exchanges but loses the pressure and loses the speed, and after getting oxygen and losing the carbon dioxide, this oxygenated blood, when it re-enter into it continues with the circulatory system. Because it has lost the pressure, its velocity is very, very slow. It's moving very slowly. So the slow movement, slowly it provides many tissues its nutrients and gas and whatever exchanges has to be done. It's okay for the fish. Why? Because fish metabolism is slow. One reason, even though they move too fast, but their movement are supported by the water. So they don't need so much energy for the movement. Secondly, fish are organisms, we say, cold-blooded, or more accurately we must say ectotherm. Fish are what kind of organisms? Ectothermic organism. Ectotherm. Ectotherm means that they don't need to control their temperature themselves. Mainly their temperature depends on the temperature of the surroundings and environment. we are not like fish. I hope you don't feel like fish. You are not fishy, am I right? You are humanly. In humans, number one, you cannot live all the time in water. So, is that right? You have to carry yourself around on the earth again and against the gravity, no water supporting you, your metabolism is high, more energy required. This is one issue. Secondly, in the fish, temperature of the fish can adjust with the temperature of the water around it, right? But we are not like that. If environment is very hot, still we want to maintain our temperature around 37 centigrade. Or if environment is very cold, our body will generate the heat and try to maintain the temperature around 37. It means we have some internal mechanism to regulate the body temperature, and for that purpose, sometimes for in cold weather, we have to produce a lot of heat to maintain our core body temperature. Because these are internal heat production, we say these are endothermic organisms. We are endothermic. And for this purpose, our metabolic rate should be higher. So those organisms, mammals like, which are endothermic. Endothermic mean that endothermic organisms, right? Endothermic organisms are also called warm-blooded organisms. That if you go in very cold weather, still your blood will be warm because body will produce the heat and keep the body heated. Heated doesn't mean you become a chicken roast or human roast. Heated mean around normal temperature. Is that right? Now, for this purpose, your metabolism is high and you need more nutrients, more oxygen, and more rapidly. Not only more amount, more rapid delivery. Is that right? Yes, am I clear? But fish is happy with this slow system. Is that right? Why fish is happy with these two things? One reason I told you that they are, in their movement, they use usually less energy because their body is supported by water. And secondly, they are ectothermic. That whatever environment temperature is, aquatic temperature is, they adjust with that. And don't try to maintain their own temperature around a specific point. Is that right? Due to this reason, fish is happy with this. But just imagine if you are a frog. Let's suppose you are a frog. It's difficult to imagine, but if your imagination is good, just imagine you are a frog. Sometimes you are living in water and sometimes you come out. If you are coming out, you are jumping around against the gravity. You know, frogs jump around a lot. Yes. Okay. So if jumping around, you need more metabolism. Do you need more metabolism or not? You need more energy. And in that case, the simple system is not enough. So frog had to make the system little alteration. In evolutionary process, frog had to change the system a little alteration, change it. What was the real problem? The real problem was not here. They have this two-chambered, what is this? Heart. They will pump through the ventricle to the respiratory organs. They will oxygenate the blood. The real problem is here. This blood which is going into vessels loaded with oxygen, they should be repressurized. They should be again pressurized. There should be another pump here. There should be another pump here which should squeeze it to push it fast, so that rapidly it moves in the limbs of the frog, then oxygen and nutrients should be supplied and frog can jump around. Even female frogs also jump around, right? So what to do then? Frog is clever. It didn't arrange a new heart or new pump here. You know what did it do? It did a little clever thing. You know, this was the main pumping chamber. What was this? Ventricle, right? What did they do? They visited the ventricle again. This is their ventricle. In the fish, this ventricle was pumping only to blood which was going to the respiratory organ. What frogs did, they brought the blood which was oxygenated back to the heart and added here another, what is it? Atrium. Right? With this ventricle which was already there, they added one atrium. Now what is happening? Oxygenated blood come back to the heart. It is not going directly, it is coming back to the heart. For which purpose? To getting repressurized. To getting repressurized. So this blood from here will go to the same ventricle. Now this is very simple diagram. I will teach you a full lecture on frog's heart, right? But for a while it is just a little concept. Now here the blood was coming which was deoxygenated. Here the blood is coming which is oxygenated, right? Deoxygenated blood has its own welcome room. Welcome room is the this atrium, right atrium. And oxygenated blood has its own welcome room, that is other atrium. But both of them open in the same dining room and pressure chamber, same ventricle. And then ventricle pump the both types of blood. Ventricle pump the both sides of types of blood. And what will happen? Now listen. This vessel which was going to the lungs, right? It will divide into two parts. It will divide into two parts. Now what is happening? This blood in the frog, which was, what was this? Oxygenated, it again come back to the heart. In the heart it has its own atrium, right? And through that it enters into ventricle. And this become a common ventricle for the venous blood which is coming and oxygenated blood which is coming, right? And then this will pump both of the blood, but most of the oxygenated will go into systemic vessels and most of deoxygenated will go to the respiratory, those organs where they will get oxygenation. But do you think this will be really perfect? No, there will be some mixing. There will be some mixing. There is some happiness here. Some oxygenated blood may go to that side and some deoxygenated blood may go to this side. But still, yes, but still it is better than single system. Do you understand it? Still it is better than single system. So what we can say, that in the fish there was two chamber and one loop and one loop, single loop. But when we went to the frog, what happens? That they needed to repressurize the blood which was oxygenated. So very cleverly they brought that oxygenated blood back to the heart. They entered into their own, what is this, atrium, but that atrium opened in the same ventricle where deoxygenated blood was coming. Now this ventricle will squeeze both blood. From one side it is coming deoxygenated blood, from other side it is coming oxygenated blood. So we can say frog heart has two atrium, one atrium for deoxygenated blood receiving, other atrium for oxygenated blood receiving, and when both of them are received, they go to the common ventricle. In the common ventricle, when they go, the common ventricle squeeze or pump both of them. Even though anatomy of this single ventricle is like this, that most of the oxygenated blood go to the systemic circulation, and most of the deoxygenated blood goes to the pulmonary circulation or respiratory organs, but still there is some mixing. Now, this system is better than fish system. Frog system is better than fish system, but little price is mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. But how many chambered heart is it? Three chambered heart. So frogs have three chambered heart. So when you move from the fish to the amphibians, frog is one of the amphibian, right? Amphibians have three chambered heart. Most of the, is that clear? Yes. Amphibians have three chambered heart. Now, how many loops are there? Now there are two loops. From heart, number one is from this loop up to this. Second is from here up to this. So this is three chambered heart with the two loops, one mainly through the respiratory system, other mainly going to the rest of the body. Now this is closed system, but is it single system? No, it is double loop. It is double loop. Because it is double loop, so we call it, yes, double closed circulatory system with 3 chambers. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Any confusion? Is it clear? Or I'm teaching myself? You also understand I told that you can imagine yourself as a frog. If you are frog, how many atria you have? 2. You have 2 atria. And how many ventricles you have? 1 ventricle. Right? So how many chambered heart you have? Basically, main chamber are 3. There are other things we will talk later. Mainly 2 atria and 1 ventricle. Is that right? Am I clear? And when venous blood come to the heart, for example, if I'm frog, blood is coming to the heart, right atrium, going to the common ventricle, then pump to the, what is this? Respiratory organ, lungs, then again come to the heart, to the left atrium, then again to the ventricle, and then go to the rest of the body. Is that right? So it means from heart, there's one loop going to the respiratory organs like lungs, and other loop is going to the all other tissues. So we'll say in case of frog, it is 3-chambered circulation. It is 3-chambered circulation, closed circulation, and double system. And double system. It is not single system, it is double system. Advantage of this double system is, listen carefully, advantage of this double system is that blood which was returning from, oxygenating blood which was returning is revisiting the heart again during the same circulatory cycle and then getting repressurized and going to the tissues. Is that right? Now you just tell me. I will just draw some circulatory system here. A little revision up to now what we have learned. Still we have not gone into detail of this fishy business. I will just draw and you tell me what is it. Yes, what is it? What kind of circulatory system is it? Open circulatory system, right? It is classically seen in insects, right? Then I will going to make another circulatory system here. Okay. The circulatory system is open or closed? Closed. It is closed. I think I should close it. Some naughty blood may go out. Okay. It is closed circulatory system. It is 2-chambered heart. One receive 2-chambered heart and single loop. So what is this? Single closed circulatory system typically found in fish. Fish or fishes. She said fishes. What is right? Fish is right or fishes is right? Or fishy is right? Fish is right. Fishes is wrong or right? Can we use the word for fishes or under what circumstances we use the word fishes? Yes. You look like fish specialist from your face.
In plural we use fish, I think.
In plural we use fish. And singular?
Same
Fish. Then can we use the word fishes?
Fish are moving in
You know, he is bringing some novel idea that something is moving, something like that. He is trying to confuse me. Believe me, he will fail here. Okay, let me tell you. This is, here you are right. Single fish is fish. And many fish are also fish. But fish's word is also used, especially in scientific community, to tell when there are more than one species of fish. If I say there is fish in this water tank, there is a fish in water tank, it means there is one fish. If I say that there are fishes, no. If I say there are many fish in this water tank, it means there are many. But if I say there are fishes in water tank, it means there are many fishes and they are from different species. This should be clear. Again, let me repeat it. One fish means one fish. Many fish mean still many fish. Is that right? Problem is with the word of fishes, right? If there is one goldfish, it is fish. If there are 20 goldfish, it is fish, because the same species. But if in water tank or any area, or you are referring to fish from different species, we can use the word fishes. We can use the word fishes. So fishes exactly is not plural of one fish. Fishes refers scientifically about when we are referring to multiple or different fish species. Okay, let's come back. Wow, so open circulation, closed circulation. This is two-chambered heart with single loop, and this is classically found in fish. It is classically found in fish. Any question up to this? No. What was the advantage of this system? Because blood is moving in closed circulatory system, relatively as compared to open, here we can maintain relatively better pressure, and as compared to open system, this system can move a blood little faster. So this is okay for the fish. This is okay for the fish. But if metabolism becomes faster, then we have to find some way to this blood which is moving towards systemic circulation to repressurize it, to again pressurize it. Right? You have a question, yes?
Yes, sir. Are there any other organism than fish who has single circulatory system?
I'm going to talk about that. Okay. So this is clear?
Yes.
So this was about fish. Now you will tell me what is this circulation. It's your test. There is atrium, there is ventricle, and this is blood going to the respiratory organs, and oxygenated blood is coming back, right? But it is going back into, what is this? Another atrium for repressurization. But atria actually does not pressurize the blood much. Atria just push the blood into ventricle. Now this system, this was systemic circulation, right? So venous blood came from here, right? And oxygenated blood came from there, from the organ. It again came to the ventricle, common ventricle. And this blood went to the respiratory system. And from here, this blood went to another vascular chamber, which took it to the peripheral tissue, right? There is some mixing going on here, some mixing going on here. But still, this is better than single system, because if it comes back here, repressurized and goes, then it will go with higher pressure and higher velocity, and that is better. Is that right? This is classically the basic design or architecture of heart of frog. Is that right? Then there are, there are organisms which want little more advance. They want it little more advanced. Now, what should be the next? Next one problem is here. What is the problem here? Mixing of the blood. The good thing is that blood going to the lungs is also pressurized, and blood going to the other tissues also pressurized. That is very good. But because they are using the same pump chamber, same ventricle, so there is some mixing. Now organisms become more clever, more advanced in evolution sense. What they will do? They will try to reduce this mixing. For example, from amphibians, little more advanced, like reptiles. Now in reptiles, they did it heart a little more advanced. They made the circulatory system a little more advanced, right? Remember, I will have separate lecture about the amphibian's heart, reptile's heart, human and bird's heart, right? But it is just basic comparison I'm doing. Now, what should be the next thing to do? That mixing should be reduced. So in case of reptiles, what happens? That they start developing here a partition. They start developing a partition here. When they start developing partition here, this is an attempt to reduce the mixing of the deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. Now heart is not 4-chambered, not 3-chambered. For our purposes, we can call it heart is 3.5-chambered. You are understanding what has happened? How the life is clever, right? And you are the most clever. We'll see most advanced hearts. Even you can give and take hearts. We'll talk about that later. Now what is happening? So if they are 2-chambered, we think of fish with single loop. And if it is 3-chambered, right, and 2 loops, one respiratory loop, other systemic loop, is that right? And both blood are coming to the same ventricle, and ventricle is not having any significant partition. This is amphibian's heart. Then from amphibians, little more advanced animal came. Advanced animal, they try to make their hearts more advanced, circulatory system more advanced. For that purpose, examples are reptiles, and most of the reptiles, not all. There is one clever exception. They developed a partial septum or division between this common ventricle, right? And in this way, they tried to reduce the mixing. So up to now, what did we study? Open circulation, open circulatory system, which was present in insect. Then we talked about closed but single circulatory system. This was fish. Is that right? In closed single circulatory system, there was 2 chambers. Then we made it frog heart. That was also closed circulatory system, but circulatory system was double circuit. One circuit for respiratory system, other circuit was for the systemic. Here if you look at the blood, during one cycle, it came to the heart, went to the respiratory organ, again came to the heart, and then went to the other tissues. So in one cycle, it passes through the heart 2 times. So this should be considered double circulation. This should be considered double circulation. So closed double circulatory system. The classical example is, yes, frog. And if we talk about frog, how many chambers? 3 chambers and 2 loops. One loop for respiratory function, other loop for supplies to the systemic or other systems in the body. Is that right? Any question up to this?
So is this the reason why we call it incomplete in frog?
Yes, very good. We'll talk about that later. Now, this is closed circulatory system, double circulatory system, right? Because there are 2 loops. One loop is going to the respiratory system, and again it is coming back and again going. And because, he is right, because if this partition is there, first of all, if there is no partition at all, blood is slightly mixing. So it is double circulation, but truly oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is not kept absolutely separate. So we say it is double circulation, but incomplete double circulation, because some of the blood will mix here. Then we can say here what, okay, I will write it. How many chambers? 3 chambers, 2 loops. Is that right? Then advanced to that was, what is this heart? Heart from a reptile. That this chamber is, pumping chamber, common ventricle is partially divided for deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. Because this partial division, so reptiles are little more efficient than amphibians. Is that right?
Yes.
Any question up to this? Now, we come to the more advanced animals, like mammals, the most beautiful mammals. Look at this man or look at this girl. Human beings. These are most advanced animals, right? Do you think animals will agree to us? I don't know. But anyway, we think we are the most advanced, right? We are most advanced. So we are advanced in so many ways. One advancement which is done in circulatory system is that this partition is complete. If it is complete partition, then what will happen? We will say that venous blood come here, come into right, what is this, atrium, going into right ventricle, then going to the organs of respiratory organs, lungs, gas exchanges occur, and then oxygenated blood will return back to the heart, but to its own atrium, and even the ventricle, which is divided by a septum, right, into right ventricle and left ventricle. Right ventricle for deoxygenated blood pumping, and left ventricle for oxygenated blood pumping, right? And then this is going to the general circulation and again come back to the systemic circulation. Now we have seen, let's suppose this is human heart. How many chambers it has? 4 chambers. And how many circulatory loop? One loop for gas exchanges through the lungs, other loop is for the systemic system, for the multiple organs. For example, if I talk about my heart, in my heart, from all over the body, blood is coming to the my heart, to the right atrium, then to the right ventricle, then it is pushed to the lungs, there it releases the carbon dioxide, acquires oxygen, and this oxygenated blood again come to the heart, but left side of the heart. In the left atrium, then it come to left ventricle. Even this left ventricle and right ventricle, they are completely separate if heart is healthy, right? So then when both ventricles will contract in human being, deoxygenated blood will be pressurized into pulmonary system, lungs, and oxygenated blood is squeezed, pushed, pressurized, pumped into systemic circulation. And there is no mixing between deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. That is the real ideal heart we have, right? So what did we learn up to now? We didn't talk about fish, no problem. What did we learn? We talk about, number 1, open circulatory system, in which part of the circulatory fluid is in vessel, tube, and part of it is through the open cavities, right? Then more advanced, closed two-chamber single loop system. We call it closed single circulatory system or single closed circulatory system. Classical example is in fish. Then from fish you move to the frog. Frog is a little more advanced than fish, right? What frog has done? Frog has done that blood which is oxygenated, to increase the pressure in the system, it is brought back. It is brought back to the ventricle. No, here. In the frog, the blood is brought back in common ventricle. And common ventricle pushes deoxygenated and oxygenated blood into respiratory organs, mostly deoxygenated, and rest of the body mostly oxygenated. This is very good that blood which was going most of the organs get pressurized and high velocity, high pressure, but a little thing fishy occur here, that there's little mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So what will be this circulation type? This is closed circulation. This is double circulation, but because blood is not completely kept away, so separated, deoxygenated and oxygenated is not 100% separated, we call it incomplete double circulation. With how many chambers? 3 chambers. How many loops? 2 loops. Is that right?
Yes.
So why we call it double circulation? That during one complete cycle, blood has to move through the heart 2 times. Then comes more advanced, like reptiles. In most of the reptiles, a little bit partition develop in common ventricle, and it is an attempt by the evolutionary system to reduce the mixing. Is that right? Making the heart more efficient, slightly more efficient and more advanced. This is seen in reptiles, most of the reptile, right? So we can say they have 3.5 chambers. 2 atria, one atrium receiving deoxygenated blood, other atrium receiving oxygenated blood, both blood going to the common ventricle, which is having partial partition. It is as partly divided, right? So we can say this is first of all closed circulation in reptile. It is closed circulation. Secondly, it is double loop circulation. But how many chambers? We can say 3.5. Then when we talk about reptiles, one of the very big reptile is crocodiles, and crocodiles are very crooked. You know what? Why they are crooked? Yes, why they are crooked? You don't know. You have heard of the crocodile tears?
Yeah.
I will not talk about their tears. They are not crooked because they have crocodile tears. They are crooked because even though they are reptiles, but they are so clever, they have made a complete partition. They have made complete partition. So crocodile has one feature like humans, that their heart is 4-chambered. But actually they are reptiles. So you can say crocodiles within the reptile category are probably, as long as the heart is concerned, very advanced, almost reaching to humans, that the heart is 4-chambered. Then we come to the group of mammals. Mammals are really very active organisms, mammals and birds. Mammals and birds, right? We are...
Is it just for the crocodile or for the alligator as well?
Oh my God, I don't know much about the alligators, right? And don't put me to any allegation that I don't know about alligators. Maybe alligator, you can read it, confirm it and email me, right? That I remember crocodiles are crooked, right? And here the crooked thing about them is that their heart is not like other reptile hearts, that their ventricle is not partly divided, their ventricle is completely divided into 2 ventricles, and that is 4-chambered heart with 2 loops.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Whale is also a mammal.
Whale is mammal, yes.
So, which type of circulatory system they have?
Oh, very good question that she says whale is an mammal. What kind of circulatory system whale should have? Answer is very obvious on the board. Whale is not classical fish. It is a mammal. Mammal have very advanced heart, and most advanced heart has how many chambers? 4. So like you, whale has 4 chambers of the heart, but of course size is bigger than you, right? So what we are talking about, that basically whale is not considered fish in the true sense, right? I was talking about true fish, right? True fish is what? True fish is always aquatic. Yes, having no limbs, no arms, no legs, breathing through the gills, and
Movement is supported by what?
movement is supported by the fins, and might have scales too. Is that right? We'll talk about whales separately in detail, right? We come back. So what we were talking about, yes. Now I will take a test of you. I will draw the circulatory system. I will talk about circulatory system and you tell me which organism I'm talking about. Yes. If a single tube is going on and then fluid come into open cavity. What is this? Open circulation. Which animal? Insects classically. Is that right? Yes. Then, now we imagine another circulation, that blood from the body come to the heart. Heart is 2-chambered. Blood is pumped into gills. From there it gets oxygenated but loses the pressure, loses the velocity and slowly recollect and again gradually move to the all body and come back to the heart. What is this kind of circulation? Closed circulation. Single or double? Single. Classical example is fish. Is that right?
Yes.
Now we come to next example. Little more advanced. Yes, blood collect from the body, come to the atrium, goes into ventricle, push into respiratory organs. There it loses the pressure, but to get repressurized again it come back through another atrium into the common ventricle. And then from there second loop start and it is repressurized. This oxygenated blood which came back is repressurized and going to the rest of the body and then coming to the heart. Now it is closed circulation, open. It is single circulation, double. How many chambers? 3-chambered. Classical animal is frog, right? Now we move another thing, that we come to what is this, we have 3-chamber. Let's make 3.5 chamber. We move to the, yes, reptiles, right? If we talk about the reptiles, reptiles, what is happening in reptiles? Oh, why I am talking about reptiles? First I have to draw the circulation. Okay, I draw the circulation. Come back. Yes, all blood coming to the right atrium, going into a ventricle. Ventricle is partially divided into right and left, and then go to the respiratory system, and from there again visit to the left atrium and ventricle with little partition and goes into systemic circulation. What is it? reptile's heart, with exception of crocodiles and I think alligators too. Crocodile and alligators are something like cousins or I don't know what. But anyway, so actually crocodiles and alligators have similar hearts. You know how similar? They have hearts similar to you. Yes. Four-chambered. So it means not only crocodile, the crook. Alligators are also crook, right? But rest of the reptiles, they have 3.5 chamber, or we can say they have 2 atria and 1 partially divided ventricle. Is that right? Here the only problem is that even though blood going to the respiratory system was pressurized by the right side, by the ventricle, and blood going to the rest of the body, which was oxygenated blood, that was also pressurized. But the only problem was little mixing. That is, so further development, designing by the evolutionary system is in mammals, right? And birds. And on 2 reptiles we can think of. One I thought crocodile, and other he was thinking of alligator, right? Both of them. So crocodile, alligators are exceptions in the reptile that they have 4-chambered heart, but humans and other mammals and birds, birdies, all of them have 4-chambered heart, right? Is that clear? Now I will say something and you will tell me what is it. Very rapidly. System is, throughout the system I'm talking about what? Circulatory system. System is open. System is open. What kind of circulation? Of course open. Thank God. I was just checking you are sleeping or not. So this is open. What organism? Insect. Now imagine. System is closed. Just imagine. System is closed. Okay, come 3 of you here. Come. I will give you with the examples. First of all, no, you come here. You guys come here. Now here is the person. There is one dorsal vessel and blood is moving into cavity. What is it? Circulation. What is this animal? Insect. Don't worry, right? It is just for an example, right? So he's insect. Okay. From the insect, oh yes, he looks a little fishy. So let's suppose blood is collected, coming to atrium, going to ventricle, going to the gills, respiratory organ, and then slowly moving and rest of the body not getting repressurized and again coming back to the heart. Single route. This organism is? Fish. You think you are fish?
The
answer of the question is fish. Yes, you want to mention to the whole world that he should not be considered fish. Answer to the question is fish. Yes. Right? Okay. So fish is closed system, 2-chambered heart, single loop, single closed circulatory system, right? The only the good thing is that they are better than open one because insect cannot grow much, but fish can, right? Because it needs more. It has closed system which can provide more efficiently nutrients and remove the waste products more efficiently and better sport by respiratory gases and other. Now we come to this naughty man. He jumps a lot, you know, you can see. Let's suppose he is our what?
Frog.
He is our frog?
Yes.
Do you look like a frog?
No.
You don't look, but you should see the mirror, you know, so that we are sure you are not frog. Okay, so he is not frog. But if in case, if he is frog, for a while, for next 20 seconds, we imagine he's a frog. If he's a frog, can you make a face like frog?
No, I can't.
You can't. You are, okay, forget about it. So if it is frog, what will be circulation? From all the body, blood is collected, coming to the right atrium, going to the common ventricle. From common ventricle is receiving blood from right atrium and also receiving blood from left atrium. Right atrium is bringing oxygenated blood, left atrium is right atrium is bringing deoxygenated blood. Thanks for correcting and listening. And left atrium is receiving oxygenated blood, but right atrium blood and left atrium blood, both of them come into common ventricle. Right? When ventricle pump, simultaneously pressurized blood is pushed in pulmonary loop which is going to the lungs, and other loop which is going to the whole system. So this his circulatory system, if he happens to be frog, this is closed circulatory system, number one. Number two, it is double circulatory system because ventricles are pushing into two loops. Common ventricle push into pulmonary loops for respiratory system and also pushing into other systems. Is that right? So closed circulatory system, yes. Double loops, so it is double closed circulatory system. How many chambers? Three chambers. So here we have the frog. I need an alligator. Yes. I don't know, he looks like crocodile. Let the crocodile appear here. Oh my God, he is real crocodile. Okay, please don't mind, Okay, but you are sure you are crocodile or alligator? Okay, forget. He doesn't want to tell. He likes to keep the secrets. But just imagine that he is crocodile. Crocodile the crook, right? Okay, now.
Crocodile or reptile?
Of course, crocodile belong. Oh, no. Yes. Crocodile has 4 chambers. We need someone with 3.5 chambers. Why don't you come? Come here. Yes. Come here. Here is a reptile which is not as advanced as crocodile or alligator, right? So this is a reptile, a typical reptile. In his case, the circulatory system, blood is coming from all the body, going to atrium, right atrium. From right atrium, it is pushed to the common ventricle, which in this common ventricle there's partial division, right? And this heart is receiving blood from the right atrium deoxygenated and from the left atrium oxygenated, and both of them are mixed very little because of the partial division. But there is little mixing, and then it squeezes and pushes to the, what is this? Into pulmonary loop and also to the systemic loop. So this reptile, right, is having closed circulatory system, double circulatory system, but this double system is incomplete because there is some mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Am I clear? Yes. So you can come here. So this was reptile, and this was special, exceptional reptile, which was crocodile. Right? Now we need a human being. Can you grace us with your presence? Now let's suppose we have another man here, right? His circulatory system, he is a human being, and if it is a human being, if he is a human being, and I assume he is, in that case his circulatory system is different. How? Most advanced circulatory system. The blood will come from all the body, come to the right atrium, go to the right ventricle. Here the ventricles are completely partitioned. The common ventricle which was present here has been completely divided into right and left ventricle. So deoxygenated blood into right atrium from all the body, deoxygenated blood into right atrium, going to the right ventricle, then it is pumped into pulmonary circulation or respiratory system. From there oxygenated blood come to the left atrium into left ventricle, but cannot mix with the deoxygenated blood as there is complete partition between the two ventricles. So completely separate oxygenated and deoxygenated system, and left ventricle will contract and push the blood into systemic circulation. Now this circulation is open or closed? Single or double? Double. 3 chambered, 4 chambered? 4 chambered, right? Now very rapidly. Yes, what kind of circulation was this? Tell open circulation, don't call him insect. Okay, so open circulation. All of these are closed. Closed. These are the types of closed, right? There is some arrangement is okay. Yeah, this was fish closed. This was fishy. Single closed circulatory system, 2 chamber with 1 loop. This was frog. This was frog, right? What was this? Closed circulation but double. All these are closed circulation, but this is single closed circulation. This is double closed circulation. Frog. But ventricles have no partition and there is blood mixing. So it is incomplete double circulation. Here is reptile, other than the crocodile or alligator. This reptile has 3 chambers, right? Again, closed circulatory system and double circulatory system. How many chambers? 3 chambers, and 3 chambers with little partition. between the common ventricle. So we call it
3.5.
3.5. Now these two men are really not men. This one is alligator or crocodile, right? But why I put it like man? Because he has a heart which is 4-chambered, right? Here what happened? All the blood, systemic loop, from left heart, blood going to the systemic loop coming to the right heart. Right heart receive the right side of the heart, right atrium and right ventricle receive the deoxygenated blood, right? And then that is going to the lungs, get oxygenated, come to the left atrium, then left ventricle, then going into systemic circulation. Is that right? So this is, even though reptile, crocodile and alligators are even though reptiles, but they have this exceptional advancement in their heart, that their heart is, ventricle has complete division, so 4-chambered heart, right? And now we come to human beings, right? Just now you will tell me, the blood which is coming back to the right heart, it is oxygenated or deoxygenated? Deoxygenated. Coming to which chamber? Right atrium, then going to right ventricle, which is completely separate from left ventricle. Then right ventricle will pump into pulmonary system. It will go to the lungs. From there oxygenated blood will come to the left atrium, and from the left atrium will go into left ventricle, and that will pump. There will be no mixing between the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood because there is no common ventricle. Both of them have their private ventricles. Deoxygenated system has right ventricle and oxygenated system has left ventricle, or we can say the real common, old common ventricle has been completely partitioned or divided into right and left, right? So there is no mixing. And left ventricle will contract and push the blood into which circulation? Systemic circulation. Now, this is closed circulatory system. And because how many cardiac chambers? 4. And how many loops? Pulmonary loops and systemic loops. So 2 loops. So in human beings or mammals, circulatory system is number 1 closed, number 2 it is 4-chambered heart, number 3 it is 2-loop system. So we call it double complete, because there is complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Is that clear to everyone? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Here we take a break. We were supposed to have lecture about fish circulation. Now, after this basic concepts, we will go in next lecture. Thank you very much. Please sit on your own sofas, and especially I'm careful about the frog. Keep sitting, please. Now, no jumping around. So what I was saying, this lecture was actually supposed to be about the fish circulatory system, but somehow we were dragged into how the circulatory system from open to go closed, and then how the single close is different from the double incomplete close, and then how it can advance into double complete closed system, right? And next lecture we'll go into detail of fish circulation. Then another lecture will come and we'll talk about detail of frog circulation with little reference to the reptiles, and in the end we'll end up with the mammal heart, and classical example I will teach human heart and human circulatory system. So class dismissed right now. Thank you very much.